everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing something kind of fun, a deep dive into, well, the power of positive thinking.
Oh, Norman Vincent Peale. A
Ah,
classic.
exactly. We found this awesome YouTube audiobook. It's amazing, packed with all this stuff that's still so relevant today.
Yeah, Peale was really onto something with his whole approach.
Right, so we figured why not break it all down for you guys, the key ideas, how it all works, and how you can actually use it.
I think people will be surprised by how practical Peale's advice actually is. It's not just about, like, wishful thinking.
Totally. It's way deeper than that. He connects it to faith, too, which is interesting.
Yeah, for Peale, it was all about tapping into this wellspring of inner strength. And he really believed you could face any challenge if you had the right mindset.
And that's a big part of it, right? Shifting your perspective. Like he uses this analogy about tiny drops of water.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
He says they're like our negative thoughts. Individually, they might not seem like a big deal, but over time.
They can carve out canyons, like literally shape your entire mental landscape.
Exactly.
It's scary when you think about how often we just let those negative thoughts run wild.
Oh, I know. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Like, we almost program ourselves for negativity without even realizing it. Oh, this is going to be a disaster, or,
Hmm.
oh, I can't deal with this today.
Yes. And then we wonder why we feel so stressed and overwhelmed all the time.
Right.
But with Peel, it's not about pretending those challenges don't exist, right?
Not at all. It's more about approaching them with, like, a different set of tools.
Which is what's so cool about this audiobook. He lays out all these techniques, really specific things you can do to start shifting your mindset.
Oh, absolutely. Like that whole emptying the mind thing he talks about. Have you ever
That-
heard that?
The visualization thing with
Yeah.
the ship.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, at first I was a little skeptical,
Really?
but then I actually tried it and wow.
It's wild how well it works.
Yeah. It's like just the act of visualizing it, of creating that image in your mind, of releasing all those worries and anxieties.
It really does create a sense of relief.
Totally. Like hitting the reset button on your brain.
And the thing is, it's not just some wacky idea he came up with. This stuff actually connects to modern psychology and mindfulness practices.
Oh, totally.
He was ahead of his time, recognizing that our minds are incredibly powerful.
That we can literally change our emotional state through things like visualization. That's kind of amazing.
It is pretty amazing. It's like he's saying, hey, you're not stuck with whatever thoughts pop into your head. You actually have a choice.
You have the power to choose which ones you entertain and which ones you just let go.
Exactly. And even more importantly, which ones you choose to replace with something more positive and empowering.
Which leads us to another one of Peele's big things, right?
Mm.
Positive affirmations.
Oh, yeah, he's all about those I can do it statements.
But he doesn't just throw them out there, does he? He gives examples, like from the Bible.
Yeah, he loved that one. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Powerful stuff.
But I think some people hear affirmations and kind of roll their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there actually any proof they work?
That's what I thought. But apparently there's a ton of research now on neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to actually change throughout life.
Yes. And it turns out repeating positive affirmations can literally rewire your thinking patterns over time.
Isn't that wild?
It's like if those little negatives we were talking about earlier, if those can create grooves of negativity in our minds.
Then positive affirmations can create pathways of, well, positivity and strength.
It's like choosing which paths you want to make stronger in your brain, which thoughts you want to feed.
And it's not about pretending the negative stuff isn't there. It's more about acknowledging it, choosing not to dwell on it, and then consciously shifting your focus. You're in control.
I love that. So we've got tackling negativity, both the big stuff and those little things we say to ourselves, but Peele doesn't stop there. He goes even further with how to deal with difficult people.
Which, let's face it, is something we all struggle with at some point.
Yes.
And his solution is interesting, to say the least.
Pray for them.
That's the one.
Seriously, pray for the people who drive us crazy. I mean, what's the logic behind that?
I know, right? It sounds kind of crazy at first, but think about it. When you pray for someone, even someone you don't particularly like.
You're forced to at least try to see things from their perspective, right?
Exactly. You're tapping into empathy, even if it's just for a little bit.
So it's not about saying what they're doing is okay. It's more about approaching the situation from a higher level, like with compassion.
Exactly. And what Peele argues is that that shift in perspective, even if it's small, it can be incredibly powerful, not just for you, but for the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Wow. That's pretty radical. He's saying that by changing your attitude, you can actually influence how other people respond to you.
It's that whole be the change idea, right?
Right. And it's not just theoretical with Peele. He tells this great story about an obstacle man.
Oh, yeah. The guy who shoots down every idea,
Yes.
always focused on what could go wrong, always pointing out the obstacle.
Well, I know people like that. It's like they're allergic to anything positive. So what happened?
Okay, so picture this. The obstacle man is in a meeting, and he's going on and on about why this project is never going to work. Just totally negative.
Ugh, the worst.
And finally, this other guy, someone who's known for being super successful, just calmly asks him, why do you constantly focus on the obstacles instead of the possibilities?
Oh, burn. I bet that got his attention.
Total silence.
So what happened next? What did the obstacle man say?
Well, he's kind of speechless for a second, right? And then he's all, well, that's a nice philosophy, but how do you actually do that? How do you just ignore the obstacles?
I can imagine. Okay, so what did this successful guy say?
So he pulls out this little card he carries with him, and he's like, this is my secret.
No way. What did it say?
It was just a simple phrase. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Wow. Okay, that is powerful. Like, I can see how having that kind of belief in something bigger than yourself could really help you push through those tough moments.
Totally. It's about cultivating that can-do spirit.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's not enough to just think it. You got to back it up with action, you know?
Right. Like Peele's always saying positive thinking followed by positive action.
Exactly. Oh, and speaking of action, there's that other technique he talks about, the throwing the day away thing. Have you heard of that
Oh,
one?
yeah, where he talks about that guy who, like, every night he'd imagine crumpling up the day and tossing it in the trash.
Yes. Isn't that such a great visual?
It's so good. It's like letting go of all the stuff you can't control and just starting fresh.
And it ties into that whole gratitude thing he's always emphasizing.
Oh, totally. Focusing on what you're thankful for instead of dwelling on the negative.
Exactly. Like, instead of begging for what you don't have, spend more time thanking God for what you do have.
Yeah.
A total shift in perspective.
It reminds me of that story Peele tells about the salesman, the one who's totally down on his luck, ready to give up.
Oh, yeah. And then he discovers that 3-sentence prayer, right?
Yes. And it completely changes his outlook.
Because it's not just about the prayer itself,
Mhm.
right? It's about shifting from that fear-based mindset to one of faith and expectancy.
Exactly. And didn't Peele say something like, what you focus on expands? So if you're constantly dwelling on problems.
You're going to see more problems.
Exactly.
But if you can shift your focus to the positive, to the solutions, that's when things start to open up.
It's like choosing to see the possibilities instead of getting stuck in those what if it goes wrong thoughts.
Totally. And that's where visualization comes in, right? Creating that mental picture of what you want to achieve, of how you want to feel.
Like you're creating a movie in your mind and you're the star.
Exactly. Yeah. The more real you can make it, the more likely you are to actually achieve it.
Didn't he suggest like writing down your goals as if they've already happened?
Oh, absolutely. Vision boards, affirmations, surrounding yourself with things that remind you of your goals.
It's like immersing yourself in that energy and that feeling of success.
Exactly. But again, this isn't just wishful thinking. You have to back it up with action, with consistent effort.
Right, like that saying, the universe helps those who help themselves.
Exactly.
It's amazing, though, right, how Peele can talk about these big ideas like faith and purpose, but then he also gets into the nitty-gritty of everyday life, like how to deal with fear and worry.
Oh, totally. He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. He knew that life can be messy, that we're all going to face challenges.
Sure.
But he didn't want us to get stuck there. You know, he wanted us to develop this, what do you call it? Emotional self-mastery.
Emotional self-mastery sounds intense. What's that all about?
Basically, it's about learning to manage your emotions, to not let them control you.
So not just letting your emotions run wild.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you have a choice in how you respond.
That makes sense. Because it's not like we can just like turn off our emotions completely, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And Peele wasn't saying we should. He knew that emotions, even the negative ones, they're there for a reason.
We're trying to tell us something.
Exactly. But it's about learning to listen to those messages without letting them take over.
So acknowledge the feeling, but then choose how you want to respond.
Exactly. And he has these great little techniques for dealing with intense emotions. Like, did you hear the one about lying down when you're angry?
What? No.
Yeah. He said it can actually help calm your nervous system.
Interesting. I'm going to have to try that one. It's like he's always encouraging you to experiment, to find what works for you,
Totally. And he was also a big believer in asking for help when you need it.
which can be hard for some people.
Oh, for sure. But he wanted us to realize that it's okay to reach out, to talk to someone,
Whether it's a friend, a therapist.
even a spiritual advisor,
Hmm.
whoever you trust, you know.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to go through everything alone.
Exactly. And on that note, we have to talk about forgiveness.
Oof. Yeah, that's a big one. And not always easy.
Definitely not. But Peele was adamant about it. He actually said that holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Right? It really makes you think. Because in the end, the person we're really hurting is ourselves.
So forgiveness is more about us than the other person.
Totally. It's about freeing yourself from that negativity,
And he gives us practical tips too, like writing a list of people you need to forgive.
including self.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. But it's a process, right? Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight.
Nope. But Peele believed it was essential for living a truly happy and fulfilling life.
And that was always his ultimate goal, wasn't it? To help people experience real joy and abundance.
Absolutely. He wanted us to thrive, not just survive. And he truly believed that happiness is a choice.
So it's not something that just happens to you.
No way. It's something you cultivate through gratitude, through strong relationships, through pursuing your passions.
And through connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. It's about finding joy in the little things, appreciating the present moment.
Even when things are tough, there's always something to be grateful for.
Always. And I think that's a really important takeaway from Peele's work. We have more power than we realize to shape our experiences.
Our thoughts matter. Our words matter. Our beliefs matter.
It's like a ripple effect. When we choose to focus on love, kindness, generosity.
We make the world a better place.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today.
Already, time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. But before we go, I want to leave you with this. Think about one small change you can make today, inspired by Peele's wisdom, to cultivate more positivity, more peace, and more joy in your life.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about taking those small steps, one day at a time.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the power of positive thinking. Until next time, keep those positive vibes flowing.